GamingBolt presents 15 best city building games that you need to play. There are few greater pleasures than building a city in video games. Something about the absolute power offered of overlooking all of these people as you expand further and further that entices us to no end. If you'd like to share in that feeling, then here are 15 of the best city building games that must be played. Cities Skylines. After what seemed like a long time, Cities Skylines arrived and delivered a city building experience that truly succeeds old school SimCity. The sheer joy of getting your city up and running, watching it buzz about as you beautify it, manifests excellently in Cities Skylines. Throw in Steam Workshop support for mods, tons of support from the developer, and plenty of content updates for even more long-term replay value. Anno 2205. Blue Byte's city building meets 4X series goes futuristic again in Anno 2205. While building cities and establishing commerce on Earth is necessary, players will also have to invest in trade with the moon. As your corporation expands on both locations, cities grow larger and larger to support your operations. Combat and the paid DLC are pretty worthless, but if a finance-heavy game is your aim, then Anno 2205 will scratch that itch. Tropico 4. All hail El Presidente! There's always been something so intriguing about playing a Castro-esque dictator, and Tropico 4 expands on that in a big way. It brings 20 new buildings, a council of ministers who can help push your more inventive ideas, and more superpowers to negotiate with. Avoid natural disasters while maximizing your offshore bank account. With 10 new maps and 20 missions, there's quite a lot to see and steal in Tropico 4. Tropico 5. So how does Tropico 5 expand on this even further? Well, this time Tropico is traveling through history, allowing would-be dictators to establish their reign in the early colonial period to the current century and beyond. Members of the Presidente's dynasty can be appointed to important positions, while an advanced trade system and fleet will help further your economy. Don't forget to renovate older buildings with the changing times to be more efficient. Surviving Mars. When El Presidente needs a break, it's time to go to Mars. No, Surviving Mars isn't Tropico in space. Instead, it's a retro-futuristic colonization adventure where the player constructs buildings to produce oxygen, water, and other resources. Eventually, you'll move on to domes to house citizens and deal with random mysteries like artificial intelligence, infections, and nuclear war on Earth. It's not the most nuanced or intuitive space game, but there's more than a few hours of fun in Surviving Mars. Prison Architect. So while not exactly a city builder, you are maintaining a maximum security prison in Prison Architect. This obviously brings its own challenges. Constructing holding cells is important, but so is ensuring prisoners can't escape. Solitary confinement and execution chambers are also available as options, but handling other aspects like food, guards, and much more is also important. Perhaps the coolest thing about Prison Architect is escape mode, where you actually attempt to break out of your own prison. Factorio. Factorio is currently in Steam Early Access but boasts an overwhelmingly positive rating. As the name indicates, building factories is key while mining, researching technologies, and expanding the overall business. It can get fairly complex to manage, and after a point, militarization will be necessary to stave off local dissent. With mod support, scenarios for different challenges, and a map editor to allow for user-made content, Factorio has a lot going for it. Dwarf Fortress. Dwarf Fortress is many things. It's a near impenetrable mass of construction, management, roguelike elements, and procedural generation that will confound you for hours on end. However, it's also a rich storytelling tool where each of your dwarves has a distinct personality and upbringing. Going with Fortress mode can challenge you in numerous ways, whether it's mining deep for magma, defending your fortress, farming underground, or battling mega beasts like dragons. Adventure mode and legends further diversify the experience as complex tales of valor and misery are carved before more worlds are generated. Banished. Banished starts players from the ground up, but unlike many other city builders, it's the people that are your major go-to. Different occupations keep them healthy and safe and learn to properly exploit resources to survive. Money and skill trees are non-existent in Banished, as you'll barter with different merchants for essential goods like livestock. Unorthodox, but still oddly compelling, Banished is definitely worth looking into. Caesar 3. Caesar 3 tests you with doing better, starting as a governor and slowly building up armies to halt the barbarians, improve the city, and get in touch with the public. Players can choose a path of military or peace during the campaign to prioritize combat or building. Managing population, prosperity, and favor while ultimately rising to the ranks of emperor is a real challenge, but Caesar 3 makes it highly rewarding. SimCity 2000. Honestly, even if you don't like city builders, SimCity 2000 is a must-play. It radically adds on to its predecessors, presenting more facilities, different modes of transport, new stories, deeper economic options, and more. By today's standards, all of this seems a given, but SimCity 2000 distilled it all into one addictive package, flawlessly combining multiple mechanics and scenarios with new challenges into a fun experience. The Settler 7. Blue Byte isn't all about sci-fi financial expansion. It also handles the Settlers franchise, with the Settler 7 offering a number of different routes to building one's kingdom. One could capture the most trade routes, create a huge army, and go about conquering map sectors, or simply invest in different technologies. Unique items, various AI profiles, and some very deep castle customization provide tons of replay value to the Settler 7 experience. Northgard. Sometimes, though, you want to gain control the old-fashioned way, through bloody Viking conquest. It all starts with building your settlement and managing resources to deal with tough climates and foes like undead soldiers. From there, you can explore Northgard and venture across the continent to find Hagen and regain the Viking High King's regal horn. Of course, with 6 clans and many non-violent victory options like lore and trading, there's plenty of variety to be had. Frostpunk. Taking place in an alternate timeline where the world has suffered a wintry oblivion, Frostpunk challenges players to rebuild civilization around a massive heat generator. Along with prioritizing resource gathering and building, the game asks you to either care for your citizens or put them to hard labor in the name of progress. 2 additional scenarios, 2 major paths for enacting laws, and expanding one's city into unknown territory are only a few things you can expect to sink hours into. Cities in Motion 2. Cities in Motion 2 is more of a transit construction and management sim. You'll have timetables to keep up and a constantly changing city. Different types of transport will bring in different rewards. More expensive options are good for business, while public transportation for the middle class is good for blue-collar workers and families. The interface needs work and the campaign is fairly boring, but Cities in Motion 2 is still a good time waster if none of the previous games are available. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.